And welcome to another episode of Coffee with Brendan. Actually, today I actually do have my coffee, so I'm going to take a little sip right now. And we'll talk a little bit about another question that I got this past week. This time about either getting an inheritance or a bonus from work and what to do with that money. So often people just simply default to one of two things. They either say, hey, I got $100,000 because my aunt passed away, or I got $100,000 because my company did really well and I cashed out some stock. So what do I do with that money? And what they typically do is they either put it in the savings account or they pay off their mortgage. And I think part of that comes back to I always say this, that my psychology degree comes in sometimes just as often as the financial planning degree, because a lot of it's very Freudian. It comes back to what happens in childhood and what you've been taught over the years. And everyone is always taught to pay off debt and to pay off your house first and foremost, the old mortgage burning parties that people used to have back in the day. But that's not always the case anymore because of where interest rates are. Interest rates are so low right now that paying off your mortgage is the best thing. So let me give you an example, and we'll see if we can figure this out. So let's say, let me get my pointer here. Let's say that you either inherit or you get $100,000 from a bonus through work. And this is currently your debt situation. You have a mortgage at 3%, $50,000. You got a credit card at $10,000. You got a credit card balance of $10,000, which has got about a 15% average annual interest rate. Student loans, $30,000, and an auto loan of $10,000. I would tell you that the vast majority of my clients would say, I want to take that 100,000 and just pay off everything. And I will say that from a behavioral feel-good standpoint, that is the majority of the people that are probably watching this video right now. Is you have $100,000, let's just pay off all this debt and be done with it. Now, I think what you're doing in that case is you're letting the banks off the hook, frankly. Because right now, inflation's at about 4%. So in other words, your money has to keep growing at 4% in order to keep up with the cost of living going up. So what that pretty much means is if you're paying off a 3% mortgage and you're paying off a 1% loan with $60,000 of that, you're doing the bank a favor. The bank is loaning this money out and only getting 3 and 1% from you. But meanwhile, the cost of everything is going up by 4%. So the bank is losing money in that transaction. So my recommendation would be not to pay off the mortgage, not to pay off the auto loan, keep those intact. And even further, if you're itemizing your expenses, that 3% is not really 3%. It's less than that because the interest that you pay on your mortgage is tax deductible. Again, if you itemize your deductions on your tax return. So you definitely want to get rid of these two because, again, those are guaranteed losses, 15% and 6%. As we all know, never carry a credit card balance. So do whatever you need to do to pay that off. So that's 40,000 of the money. So what do we do with the rest of the money if we're going to keep the mortgage and we're going to keep the auto loan? So if you put it into checking, you're probably going to get next to nothing or maybe a fraction of a percent. If you put it in savings, you might get a little bit more. Investment should make 6+%. Now, with that said, that is variable. That is not guaranteed. So I can understand if people would say, I don't really want to put it into the market at this point. So with that other 60,000, you definitely want to have a good cash reserve. You don't, and typically the rule of thumb is anywhere between 3 and 6 months of your fixed expenses is what you should have in cash. So if your cash reserves are like $3,000 to $5,000, then yeah, throw some more of that money into these low yielding investments, because you do need to have some liquidity. But a good chunk of it should go into something that's making 6%, as opposed to money that's losing 1% and 3%, especially if inflation is at 4% right now. So how do you do this? Of course, you could just call up someone like me and dump it into one of your non-IRA buckets. But instead, what I would probably do is make sure you're maxing out your 401ks and retirement plans at work. Also, if you're eligible for a Roth IRA, put it into the Roth IRA. You can only contribute about 6,000, 7,000 if you're over 50, but that would be another good place for it. So bottom line is, that's pretty much what I would say, is don't just simply default to paying off the loans. That's not the right thing to do from a dollars and cents standpoint, especially with inflation as high as it is and interest rates as low as they are right now. And think about investing some of that, building up your cash reserves and things like that. So that's pretty much my message for today. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll chat again next week. Thanks.